Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Utility Sports. Today on our channel, we are going to be continuing our Mock Draft Monday rendition for the NFL Draft here coming up in 2021. At this point, we are in the middle of Week 10 here, right before the Monday night matchup between the Minnesota Vikings and the Chicago Bears. So this order is not fully complete yet. It'll be a little dependent on what happens in that game. But I still think it'll be worthwhile to look here, and also make sure to like and subscribe if you are new to our content, or if you've just been watching and haven't subscribed yet, because we really appreciate your guys' feedback and support as we're trying to grow our channel here. All right, and opening up to our NFL draft expert here, Austin, we got the New York Jets on the clock here at 1, and I think this is a pretty obvious pick.
Yeah, so for the New York Jets, we know that they really don't believe in Sam Darnold as a quarterback, I don't think. This is a new regime. Joe Douglas did not draft Sam Darnold, so there's really no connection there trying to justify his selection. So we do believe that they will go best player on the board in Trevor Lawrence.
Yeah, Trevor Lawrence, obviously a bigger QB at 6'6", can really fill the pocket out well, and I think the Jets would be getting a home run player here, one of the best quarterback prospects we've had in the past decade or so. Austin, walk us through Lawrence a little bit.
Yeah, so for Trevor Lawrence, it's all about having all of the tools physically and mentally. He has it as well. For him, he can throw to all three levels. He's a guy that can throw deep, intermediate, short. He's not lazy with his throws. He doesn't take plays off, despite them most of the time, beating up on bad teams really bad. At that point, you can kind of get lazy with it, but he's very crisp, precise with his throws. His mechanics look good. He squares himself to the receiver. So a lot to love about Trevor Lawrence.
Great. Moving on to number 2, the Jacksonville Jaguars here. Obviously started off the year with a surprising win against the Indianapolis Colts, and then have looked kind of the way everyone expected them since then at that point. Quarterback is a pretty big need here. Is that where we have the Jaguars going at 2?
Yep, for the Jacksonville Jaguars, it's a clear and obvious fit. Justin Fields. Justin Fields is definitely a riser in this class where we knew he was going to be a top selection, but he has played better than even expected. He was actually completing around 90% of his throws before this week started. So Justin Fields has been a phenomenal talent. He's improved his mechanics. Obviously, he's a threat with the ball in his hands. Pretty good athlete through and through. So I think the Jaguars would be really happy to still get Justin Fields as kind of the consolation prize to the Trevor Lawrence.
Now going into pick 3 here, the Dallas Cowboys. We have quite a few Cowboys fans that do watch our videos. Where do we have them going here at 3, and do you love the pick for them?
Yeah, so I'm going to have them go Patrick Surtain. I think this pick makes a lot of sense. You're going to have him opposite of Trayvon Diggs. You need to shore up the secondary if you're a Cowboy fan. It's been a little bit frustrating watching your secondary this year, but obviously Patrick Surtain makes a lot of sense for you guys to add opposite of Trayvon Diggs.
And going to a division rival, the New York Giants here at pick 4, did take Andrew Thomas last year. Do we have them addressing offensive line yet again this year, or possibly addressing that defense?
Yeah, so I think both are very fair points to bring up. However, we will have them taking Sewell from Oregon. He's going to be very, very, very solid tackle in terms of the pass and the run. He can do both. Obviously, it's important for the run for Saquon Barkley and to continue his development as a runner. Obviously, Giants might even think quarterback at this position, but with the 2 top guys off the board, I don't know if it really makes sense for them. Especially they're going to want to try to justify the Daniel Jones selection, but getting, obviously one of the best players in the class at the offensive tackle position is really key here. They might look to move Andrew Thomas to right tackle and have Sewell as the left tackle. So for the Giants, it's very important to get that tackle position.
Staying in the NFC East here now, we have 3 teams in a row going into the Washington football team. Obviously, there's going to be questions about the quarterback position there. Alex Smith, I believe, is currently starting after the injury to Kyle Allen. Dwayne Haskins could be on his way out. Obviously, that front 7 that they've built there is, pretty solid. That's probably the strength of their team at this point. Do you see them going secondary here at this point, or do you think they will address that quarterback spot at 5?
Yeah, so for the Washington football team, it really depends on how they feel about Alex Smith going into next season. I don't believe they, think as him for a long-term option or even a couple bridge year options. So for them here, I think Trey Lance makes a lot of sense coming from North Dakota State. He only had 1 game this season. He only threw for, I think, 142 yards in that game. So obviously he wasn't super ready to play in that game, but for him, it's all about being a mobile quarterback. He moves similarly in the pocket to Mahomes, just how he maneuvers the pocket. And he's not going to be a guy that is like a Lamar Jackson-esque outside the pocket, but he does fight for extra yards. He's a quarterback that is not willing to slide, so that's going to need to get cleaned up. But he's the ultimate competitor in that sense, where he'll try to run through a linebacker. Even though that he is a quarterback, he does want to run through you, and he kind of keeps that mentality throughout the entire game.
Yeah, that physical presence at the quarterback position is something that Ron Rivera has had in the past with Cam Newton, and I think Lance would be a really nice selection here for Washington as well. Jumping into pick 6 here, the Los Angeles Chargers have really battled injuries this year. Balaga's missed a lot of time. Eckler's missed a lot of time. Their cornerback room's been really dinged up, and obviously no Derwin James for this season's really hurt their defense as well. That's why we see them here up at 6 at this point of the year. Where do you have the Chargers going here if they stay at 6?
So a lot of this has to do with the cap construction of the future. So I'm actually going to have them selecting Gregory Rousseau from the University of Miami. He is just a phenomenal athlete. He's 6'6", 251. This is a guy that can rush the passer, play against the run. And obviously for the Chargers, Melvin Ingram is going to be on his way out after this year. There's a lot of talks that they will not be bringing him back due to his contract expiring. So it only makes sense to put him opposite of Joey Bosa and keep up that defensive line as top tier.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's a home run pick there, grabbing the edge out of Miami. You're looking at arguably one of the best 1-2 pass rushing duos for years to come then with him and Bosa together. And I think that's something Chargers fans should be excited about. At pick 7 here, now we have the Miami Dolphins selecting for the Houston Texans, obviously from the Laramie Tunsil deal a year ago. And the Dolphins are one of those teams that have a pretty bright future here. And at 7, they're going to be able to start capitalizing on that with Tua at their quarterback position. Where do you have them going here?
So for Miami, it's about improving that Brian Flores defense. Obviously, he's a defensive-minded coach. They would really, really love to get Micah Parsons here. He's a sideline-to-sideline linebacker. He's a guy that is able to stay in coverage. Obviously, one of the best cover guys in the entire nation. But for him personally, I think it makes a lot of sense in the fit because he can also rush the rush the passer, which Brian Flores loves the versatility in linebackers. So Micah Parsons is a phenomenal fit in Miami, and honestly, that's probably the best fit of all the players so far that we've had.
Yeah, Parsons right next to Kyle Van Noy gives them that versatile linebacker system that you're talking about. Obviously, something that kind of stems off from what they do in New England under Bill Belichick, and Flores has really been implementing that well so far in Miami. Going into number 8, the Cincinnati Bengals here. Obviously, Joe Burrow has quite elevated the floor of this team at this point of the year. Offensive line is a real concern. Defensive play could still be obviously much improved at this point. Where do you see the Bengals going if they are around 8 here?
Yeah, so it's very hard for me not to select a tackle with this selection, but being that there is a particular player on the board that actually played with Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase will actually be the selection. Now, a lot of Bengals fans will not be, super happy about not getting the tackle, but I think you can wait till the second round, get yourself a tackle to replace Bobby Hart with, but you get the best receiver in the class. He's a phenomenal route runner. He can high point the football. He can run the route tree to its entirety. Jamar Chase is a phenomenal selection here for the Bengals. You pair him up with Joe Burrow again, and that offense could be looking pretty lethal.
Yeah, we kind of see a changing of the guard here for the Bengals wide receiving core. Obviously, there was rumors about A.J. Green wanting out. He hasn't quite had the production this year that we're used to seeing a player like him have in the past. And obviously, John Ross is now injured and also wanted out as well at one point. So now we're going to kind of see Chase, Higgins, and Tyler Boyd be that new trio there. And I think that would be something to be really excited about as a Bengals fan. Going into number 9, the Carolina Panthers here. Teddy Bridgewater is day-to-day with an MCL sprain right now, so it is possible that they move up even higher at this point in the draft. But obviously their offense has been clicking pretty well, even with Christian McCaffrey out for a majority of the year at this point. Where do you see the Panthers going? Are they addressing offensive line or bulking up that defense a little bit more like they did last draft?
Yep. So I think once again, it's going to be a defensive pick. You've been working on the defensive side of the football. Last draft was extremely focused towards that. We're going to have Farley go from Virginia Tech. Farley's a guy that's a big 6'2" corner. You can pair him alongside of Dante Jackson. And I think it makes a lot of sense for Carolina to get that corner and, continue to shore up that defense, because obviously with the current offensive structure for the Panthers, I mean, it's been working despite Christian McCaffrey not playing. Bringing in Joe Brady into this system. He's implemented a very, very good system for Teddy Bridgewater. Obviously, Robbie Anderson has thrived. DJ Moore's done well. So I think there's a lot to like about the Panthers offense so far. I think offensive line they could touch up, but honestly, just getting a corner for the Panthers makes a ton of sense.
Yeah, they've got to be looking to replace Bradbury. Obviously, it was a big loss for them from this past offseason. I think Farley's a really good starting point for them to bulk up that defense and really improve in the defensive passing game, as we saw the Buccaneers kind of torch them a little bit in that department. Now looking at number 10 here, the Atlanta Falcons, a team that perhaps could be having a much lower pick, honestly, if they were able to have closed out games at this point of the year. They blew about 3 games that they should have for sure won based on where their leads were at in the fourth quarter. So it is possible that they move down a little bit yet again this year. Obviously, Matt Ryan's a really good quarterback still. But where do you have the Falcons going? Do you think that they need to address a long-term backup to Matt Ryan?
I don't think so yet. I think they can hold on to Matt Ryan a little bit longer, just to keep him around. Makes sense for them. But I have them going Kwity Paye from Michigan. This is a move in order to address the pass rushing needs. Paye, not Payne. But for them, it makes a lot of sense that you have to replace McKinley. You have to replace the Vic Beasley that's been gone. Honestly, you just need more of an edge rushing presence, and Paye does that for you.
Yeah, that's a pretty Atlanta Falcons pick here too. Obviously, a guy that we haven't seen a lot in the top 10 yet at this point of the year, but I think, the physical stuff is there for him, and I think that makes a lot of sense for the Atlanta Falcons at 10. Going into 11, the Detroit Lions are on the clock, have quite a few needs, could address cornerback, still with Okudah, putting someone next to him on the other side of him, or possibly going offensive line, even wide receiver could be a little bit of a need. Where do you have the Detroit Lions going at this point?
So I have them going Jason O from Penn State. This is another edge rushing move. Obviously, Matt Patricia loves to go. It's with a Y. Yep, Jay. Yep. So for them, it's all about getting more pass rushing. Obviously, they've been kind of missing Ziggy Ansah over the last couple of years. They have Flowers, but I think getting another edge rusher is really crucial for this defense. They used a pick last year on Jeff Okudah to address the defensive side of the ball. I think they're going to keep working it. I think they're going to run back their offense again. They obviously addressed it last year with taking DeAndre Swift. It's very possible they go possibly a wide receiver, but I think they're going to address the defensive side of the ball once again.
Now moving into the Minnesota Vikings, a team that did address wide receiver last draft, grabbing Justin Jefferson, one of the few bright spots on that team up to this point this year. Obviously, we do believe that they're a pretty talented team, and will probably move closer to that 16-17 range in the draft here rather than sticking at 12. But at this point, they are at 12, and where do you have them going?
For the Minnesota Vikings, it's all about improving the offensive line. Obviously, it has not worked out so far. You're going to have to move Ezra Cleveland to left tackle for this move, and then you're going to select Wyatt Davis. He's the guard from Ohio State. I'm just gonna get another guy for Dalvin Cook to run behind, and I think the Pat Elflein thing was kind of a disaster. Obviously, they released him now, but you got to kind of shore up that offensive line. A lot of people are thinking, well, now what about Cousins? Can the Vikings replace Cousins? Yes, they can, but I wonder about moving the contract. That's going to be a little tougher. So you're going to have to make do with your situation then and select Wyatt Davis and, just give your offense the best chance to succeed with grabbing that guard.
Moving into 13 now, the New England Patriots came off an impressive win yesterday against the Baltimore Ravens. And obviously on Monday night, handled the New York Jets with a game-winning field goal by Nick Folk. So they've on a 2-game win streak now. At 13, where do you have the Patriots going? And what do you think about the pick?
Yeah, so for this selection, I really like it a lot. It's Kyle Pitts from Florida. Kyle Pitts is an absolute playmaker. He's a guy that can stretch the field vertically. He can catch stuff underneath. He's not going to be, so much of a blocking presence, but the New England Patriot teams at their best had the Rob Gronkowski to really anchor their offense. But getting a guy like Pitts at this position, you're feeling really, really good. Obviously, the Patriots would like to keep Cam Newton around, I believe. So if they do that, they would go and get him another weapon because the Patriots obviously need quite a bit more of those. And with their current tight end situation, there's a lot of guys that are in and out of the lineup, and it hasn't been consistent play basically since Gronk left. So Kyle Pitts is the selection here.
Yeah, look, for our Patriots fans listening in here, obviously they would maybe want to hear a quarterback go here at 13. Is there any chance that they make an offseason acquisition of a player like, say, Sam Darnold, who we had get replaced by Trevor Lawrence at pick 1 in this draft in a rare interdivision trade?
Yeah, so I think for the Patriots, it's about saving money, and obviously Sam Darnold's contract would be coming up pretty soon. So I think if they do get a quarterback, they would opt to draft one, possibly in the first round, to get that fifth-year option. I think that is definitely a trade, though, that they would consider. Obviously, they always seem to have the Jets' hand in pretty much everything. So I think that's a possible trade. They'd have to, get very, very good value in order to do so. Bill Belichick doesn't seem to roll like that, but I don't see that completely out of the question for them to make a move for Darnold. But I think that they will hold on to Cam Newton for now.
Looking into pick 14 here, obviously Drew Lock's not quite having the year that many Broncos fans would hope, but overall they're still kind of around the middle of the pack with their overall play, kind of strung together a couple wins, obviously beat the Jets earlier on in the year as well. Where do you see the Broncos going at 14 and break down some of their needs?
Yeah, so for the Denver Broncos, it's you want to address the defensive side of the ball. Obviously, I think you could use, your left side of the offensive line is pretty good. You would like to possibly beef up the right tackle spot. So I think that's a potential spot you could look here. Obviously, on the defensive side of the ball, you'd like to get another linebacker, which I will have them go Dylan Moses. Dylan Moses is a phenomenal linebacker, and last year he would have been a first-round pick if he had come out. But I think that Denver would be really happy to have another linebacker. You got to kind of got to reboot the defense a little bit. They're not the same old Bronco defense we were used to, especially during the Peyton Manning era. But they could be trending the right way. You have Bradley Chubb, you have you have Justin Simmons, you have a couple nice pieces on that defense. So Dylan Moses makes a lot of sense for the Broncos, and Bronco fans would really come to love this selection.
Yeah, looking at the Broncos historically, when they've been at their best, they've had at least one or two linebackers in the middle that get a lot of things done. We saw that with Trevathan and a few others in the past. I think they'd be really ecstatic about getting Moses here at 14 to kind of shore up the middle of their defense. And going into next year, getting a healthy Von Miller back, hopefully, and also Moses would really shore up some of their defensive struggles early on from this year. At pick 15 now, the San Francisco 49ers are on the clock. Where do you see them going? Obviously, kind of an uncharacteristic start for them.
Yeah, it's tough for the 49ers this year. A lot of injuries. Unfortunately, I think they would have been better had not all those injuries had occurred. But I think they're going to actually select a quarterback here. I'm going to have them go Zach Wilson, who's been a prospect that has flew up people's boards. He was pretty much an unknown player to, now a first-round selection. He's going to be a solid first-round pick, I believe. He's really improved his accuracy. He can maneuver around the pocket. He doesn't have the strongest arm, but the guy just makes a lot of plays consistently, and I think 49er fans would love to see this.
Yeah, with a Zach Wilson selection here to the Niners, that could mean that Garoppolo would be, again, available via the trade market. Obviously, the Patriots would be a team to watch if they could reacquire him. It'd be something interesting to keep an eye on. What do you think his trade market will kind of look like with where his contract's at?
Yeah, it's going to be kind of tough. It's kind of funny that you say that, because I wouldn't be surprised if New England kind of jumped on that now that his stock is pretty low overall. So I think that would actually be a more likely trade than the Darnold deal, because Bill Belichick has, quote, his guys. But I think that it's hard to gauge his value right now. But I think if we're talking suitors, New England's right there.
Perfect. Going into 16 here, the Chicago Bears, a team that really strong defensively. Offensively, they've been a little bit more questionable this season. Obviously, Nick Foles at the helm. Is quarterback possible here, or do you kind of see Nick Foles as a bridge QB for a while yet? And where would you have the Bears going at 16?
Yeah, so as it stands right now, I think they're going to have Nick Foles be that bridge quarterback. However, I don't think it's completely out of the realm of possibility that they go quarterback. However, I think I'm going to address one of their biggest needs, and that's the right tackle spot. Bobby Massey's been hurt all year long, pretty much. For the Bears, you got to get Leatherwood at tackle. He's an aggressive offensive lineman. He'll hit you first, even on pass blocking. He's a super, super aggressive tackle. And honestly, you'd love to have that on the right side of your offensive line.
Yeah, I think that would really help them in a lot of ways. Obviously, get some more pass protection and obviously a physical run blocker as well. Going into 17 here, the Cleveland Browns are on the clock. They've been a little inconsistent this year. Some really good wins, some, questionable performances as well. Kind of hinges on how Baker Mayfield's playing that day. Where do you see the Browns going? Obviously, a really talented team in terms of playmakers. Still quite a bit to address, though.
Yep, exactly. And going into this offseason, I think they would consider trading Odell Beckham Jr. However, with his injury, it's going to be a little tougher to do so. So I'm going to actually have them go and edge Joseph Ossai. Ossai is how you pronounce or how you spell the last name. He's going to be an edge rushing presence alongside Von Miller. Olivier Vernon's, I think, on his last string there with the Cleveland Browns. So I think getting an edge rusher in Ossai makes a lot of sense for the Browns. Continue to build that defense, which is already pretty good to begin with. I think that you got to get another guy opposite of Myles Garrett.
Looking at pick 18 here now, the Indianapolis Colts, a team that's really kind of putting it all together. Cornerback play has been really, really solid this year. Phillip Rivers looks like he's turned back the clocks a little bit. Nyheim Hines has kind of emerged as a pass catching back for them, working with Phillip Rivers. Obviously, there's some questions at wideout and also tight end for them. But at this point, they've been playing pretty well this year. Where do you have the Colts going?
So for the Colts, I have them going Basham, who's an edge from Wake Forest. And honestly, for the Colts, you want to get another edge rusher, keep improving that defense. I think that's one of their biggest needs is an edge rusher because Justin Houston's getting a little old. You got to address that part of your defense. Your offense has been doing well enough. Obviously, like you had mentioned there, they could possibly look tight end, but I think Basham is a good selection for them here.
Yeah, obviously focus the interior D-line presence with their trade with the San Francisco 49ers. Last year giving up pick 13, and here at 18 now they're going to go grab an edge rusher to play next to him. At 19, the Philadelphia Eagles are now on the clock. Obviously a team that took Jalen Reagor last year, has some cornerback questions, some safety questions, and overall just quite a few directions they could possibly go. Where do you see the Eagles going at 19?
I have them going Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah. He's a linebacker from Notre Dame. And if you put on the Clemson tape, I mean, he did a phenomenal job in that game. He shows you that sideline to sideline ability. And honestly, for the Eagles, it's about just getting another linebacker, getting another guy in the mix. That's one of their biggest needs is linebacker. So hopefully that'll kind of help shore up their defense, which has struggled thus far this year. You could also look wide receiver possibly. However, they took Jalen Reagor last year. So I think addressing linebacker is where they should go.
At 20 now, we have the Arizona Cardinals. Obviously came off a Hail Mary win just yesterday from Kyler Murray to DeAndre Hopkins. What an unbelievable catch, arguably the best receiver in the game. And the Cardinals at 20, obviously are going to try and look to build long-term around Kyler Murray, maybe give him some pass protection help. Is that where you see them going here?
So for the Arizona Cardinals, I have them taking Pat Freiermuth from Penn State. He's one of those tight ends that he's able to block. He's a big frame. He has very, very solid hands as well. Not the most pristine route runner in the class, but he just is a power tight end. And honestly, for Kyler, it makes a lot of sense to get him another weapon on that offense. You replace Max Williams with him, and honestly, your offense gets quite a bit better with that selection. You got to keep building around Kyler and got to give him all the tools you can to win.
Yeah, I love that selection. Actually, you get a more physical tight end to kind of help in the run game a little bit, but still can function as a weapon for Kyler. Kind of the best of both worlds offensively there for the Arizona Cardinals. Going into 21 now for the Miami Dolphins. Obviously, earlier in the draft here, we had them take Micah Parsons out of Penn State. And now at this pick, this is their own selection here at 21. Where do you see them going?
So I'm going to have them go with the speedster, Jalen Waddle. You got to get another weapon for Tua on that offense. Obviously, you have Devontae Parker. It makes a lot of sense to go and get a wide receiver for Tua. Just got to keep continuing to build those weapons. Preston Williams had played well. Just getting another wide receiver, especially a speedster, That offense is already starting to look dangerous, and you add another guy like Jalen Waddle into the mix. Look out, Miami is starting to really turn things around there.
Yeah, it's kind of funny here. The first two QBs off the board last year in Burrow and Tua Tagovailoa now get their receiving counterparts from their alma maters. At 22 here, the Jacksonville Jaguars are on the clock. Obviously, this pick comes from the Los Angeles Rams and the Jalen Ramsey deal last season. Last year, they used one of those picks on Kayvon Chase. At 22 here, where do you see the Jaguars going?
For the Jaguars, it's all about trying to fix that secondary. It's been pretty broken. You've had Andrew Wingard in and out. You've had Jared Wilson in and out. So I'm going to have them go Javon Holland, the safety from Oregon. For the Jacksonville Jaguars, you have to really shore up that secondary. It's had a lot of issues this year. They've been torched in their secondary. They've had a lot of guys in and out of the lineup trying to figure out what works. Sidney Jones has been a pretty nice surprise after they claimed him from the Philadelphia Eagles. Obviously, they drafted C.J. Henderson with the 9th pick last year. Trey Herndon's had his issues at corner. However, he's pretty much the best option that they have outside of what else is on the roster. So Javon Holland, it makes a lot of sense to try to fix that secondary because you can't keep running it back with Wingard and Jared Wilson.
Moving into 23 here, the Las Vegas Raiders are on the clock. Obviously, a team that's kind of outperforming where many had expected them to be. Obviously, Henry Ruggs hasn't quite made the impact that many were expecting, but I still think he's a big part of what their offense needs to open up the middle for players like Darren Waller and company. And I think that the Raiders have quite a few directions they could go here at this pick. Where do you see them going at 23?
Yeah, so for this selection, I'm going to have them going defense. We're going to have Marvin Wilson go. Marvin Wilson's a guy that you can plug in right away. He'll be a starter as soon as he gets there. The Raiders have had a lot of issues in terms of pass rush this year. They have no sacks from their current starters right now at the defensive tackle position in Hankins and Collins. Hurst has been hurt. So honestly, if you get another defensive tackle, get some interior pass rush, and a guy that can also stop the run as well. I think for the Raiders, just keep improving that defense because your offense has been working, pretty well so far. And obviously, they have quite a few weapons on the offensive side of the ball, and they addressed offense with their first pick last year. So go and get yourself a defensive tackle here.
Yeah, beefing up the middle makes a lot of sense for them. Obviously, they like Corey Littleton quite a bit as a coverage linebacker in the middle there to deal with tight ends. So I think getting some run stopping help and some possible pass rush help in the middle makes all the sense in the world. Going into 24, the Tennessee Titans, the team obviously really predicated on the run and play action game. Obviously, Derrick Henry's been a beast again this year. For them, where do you see Mike Vrabel and the Tennessee Titans kind of going here at 24?
I think they're going to get another weapon for Ryan Tannehill. I see Rashad Bateman going with this selection. Rashad Bateman's going to be a guy that you can put opposite of A.J. Brown. He's a really, really good route runner. Honestly, he could have been picked higher. However, with the current Minnesota season that's happened, Tanner Morgan has had quite a bit of struggles. The offensive line has had struggles for the University of Minnesota. So Bateman's stock has taken a little bit of a tumble here. Not too far, though. I think Tennessee would be really happy to get him with the 24th pick because had he opted out, he very well could have been anywhere from pick 11 to 20, but they do get him here at 24. Very good selection for Tennessee.
Yeah, like you said, I think they'd be really happy about grabbing that and kind of opening up their offense a little bit more outside of just the run game, getting that receiver that they need for Tannehill, who they obviously locked up long term. Going into pick 25 here, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers obviously just came off a nice win against the Carolina Panthers. Tom Brady obviously doesn't look like he's aged a whole lot this year. Yet again, continues to defy the odds there. Where do you see the Buccaneers going? And do you think it's a winning move for the future?
Yeah, so for this one, it's all about creating some cap flexibility because I don't think it's going to be very easy to bring back Ndamukong Suh at the number that Ndamukong Suh wants. So I'm going to have Christian Barmore from the University of Alabama, the defensive tackle, go here. You got to keep improving that defensive line. Obviously, Ndamukong Suh is getting a little older. You need the cap flexibility. You got to keep up that number one run defense. And the way you do that is just to plug in a Barmore for Ndamukong Suh and hope that works out. And I think he'll be a very, very fine replacement for Suh.
Yeah, I think that cap flexibility is really important when you get to some of these contending teams here. Obviously, they're really good teams, have a lot of really good players. So managing the salary cap is really important for them. And I think finding cheaper replacements with high-end talent like Barmore makes a lot of sense. Going into the Jets here, obviously at pick 1, we had them go Trevor Lawrence. And here I think addressing the defensive side of the football makes a lot of sense. Cornerback play has been really inconsistent. Could even use an edge here at this point. Do you have them going one of those two places?
Yep, I actually have them going with Shaun Wade, the corner from Ohio State. He's most comfortable working in the slot for the New York Jets. You got to get a corner here. But Shaun Wade's he's an exceptional slot corner. He struggled. They put him on the outside this year. He's had his struggles, so they ended up kicking him inside. And Shaun Wade's going to be a very good pick for the Jets. You got to shore up that secondary. There's a lot of issues there. They got issues everywhere. Let's be honest. So let's just take a guy that could be a top 15 player in the class, and you get him at 26.
Yeah, I really like the Wade selection here at 26 for them. Obviously, Pierre Desir is only on a 1-year deal. Doesn't seem like he's going to be a long-term answer. Bless Austin's the other outside starting corner at this point. And the slot, Brian Poole, just did go down this past week too, and I don't think long-term he's really going to be a solution either. So getting Wade, a guy who is comfortable working on the inside, has a little bit of experience working outside, makes a lot of sense. Gives them some flexibility. I think cornerback's going to be a real position of need for the Jets going into this draft here. At 27, the Ravens here coming off a disappointing loss to the New England Patriots. Obviously, there's some question marks about kind of where their team's at. Obviously, Lamar Jackson came out and said that teams are kind of recognizing what plays they're running. Do you think the Ravens go offense to help Lamar out, or do you think they continue bulking up that defense?
Yeah, so I think that they're actually going to go get a playmaker here in Devonta Smith, the wide receiver from Alabama. Alabama has produced great receivers, obviously, for the last decade, starting with even back to Julio Jones. But they just keep producing NFL wide receiver talent that translates to the NFL. Obviously, we've had a lot of successful receivers like Ridley, Jones, et cetera, et cetera. For this one, I think it makes sense to get Lamar another weapon. Obviously, Willie Snead's not going to be the guy that you're going to rely on as well. You do have Marquise Brown, but you would like to get another weapon on the outside, and Devonta Smith can do that. He can catch over the middle in traffic. He's a physical receiver, and honestly, the Ravens have to go wide out, I think.
Yeah, I really like that selection. Obviously, they've addressed the run game with past picks. Lamar Jackson himself's almost a viable run game. So getting some help on the outside receiving core makes a lot of sense. Going into 28, the Buffalo Bills, a team with really not a lot of weaknesses. They've got a lot of strong points, especially on defense. The acquisition of Stephon Diggs has kind of opened up their offense a little bit. Zach Moss and Devin Singletary are an okay running back duo. Could be a little bit of an improvement there if they wanted to, but I think overall they're a pretty set team. And this could be a team that does trade out of the first round even, but here at 28 with them sticking in, where would you have them going?
Yeah, I think that's a very good idea on the trade out. I think that would make a lot of sense for Buffalo, but I'm going to actually have them go with Eric Stokes from Georgia. He's a 6'1" corner, and he's got pretty good length for that 6'1" frame. Honestly, for Buffalo, just getting another outside corner outside of Tre'Davious White and just keep improving that dominant defense that you have.
Yeah, obviously that could have helped them this past week with the DeAndre Hopkins catch getting a little bit bigger of a cornerback out there in space. Going into 29, the Green Bay Packers are on the clock here at this point. Aaron Rodgers still does need a second wide receiving option. Obviously, Valdez-Scantling did have a nice grab this week. They weren't able to get a deal done for Will Fuller, unfortunately for them. So it's kind of Devontae Adams and then who else? Is that where you have them going here, or do you have them addressing somewhere else?
Yeah, I have them going with Moore, the receiver from Purdue. And Rondale Moore is a guy that he's only 5'9", but he can really work out of the slot for Green Bay. I think this kind of gives you some options if you want Valdez-Scantling on the outside or if you want Allen Lazard on the outside. And then you have Moore going here in the slot for Green Bay. He's going to be really, really dangerous, especially from the short to intermediate routes. Honestly, Green Bay, you just got to get Aaron Rodgers another weapon. And getting Rondale Moore makes a ton of sense for Green Bay. Honestly, if you can get him another wideout, they're going to be extremely dangerous. Currently, they are dangerous how it is. But like you had mentioned, it's Devontae Adams and then who? Lazard's taken some steps. Scantling had a very nice catch this week against Jacksonville. But honestly, for long term, you got to go Rondale Moore.
Moving into the defending champion Kansas City Chiefs here. Obviously a really complete team, honestly. Could use a little bit more defensive help, obviously, but I think their offense has enough to carry it. Do you see them going interior line to kind of replace Duvernay Tardif in case he doesn't come back from, obviously helping out with COVID? Or do you think that defense is where they should go?
Yeah, so I think they're going to address the defensive side of the football. To be quite honest, I think they would maybe replace Anthony Hitchens. So I'm actually going to have them go with Nick Bolton, who's a linebacker here. One of the biggest strengths for Bolton is he's a sure tackler, and I think that Kansas City would love to get another sure tackler on that team. He's a super physical linebacker. He's a thumper. I like the Chiefs getting Bolton at this selection.
Yeah, that does make a lot of sense. Obviously, there's been questions about the cornerback room going into this year, but we've seen players like Snead kind of step up. Breeland's been playing pretty well this year too for them. So I think addressing the middle of that defense with Bolton would make a lot of sense. Going into the New Orleans Saints here, reports came out today that Drew Brees did fracture several ribs this past week and has a collapsed lung at this point, so he might be missing a few weeks as well. So it's possible that maybe they move back up around the 25-26 range if they struggle without him. And it'll also be interesting to see Jameis Winston get a few weeks of starting. Probably that's likely who we'll see at QB with some Taysom Hill obviously getting snaps as well. Do you see the Saints going quarterback long-term to replace Brees, or where do you see them going?
Yeah, so I guess it's going to kind of depend on how the rest of the season goes with Jameis Winston and the limited time that he'll have to prove himself. For Jameis Winston, it's very, very crucial these next couple of weeks for him. He could go from being the franchise guy and them re-signing him through a long-term deal to him possibly, just being out and looking for another job. But under the assumption that he doesn't play super well, we're going to have them go Kyle Trask from Florida. He's the quarterback. Trask is a guy that is in the Heisman conversation right now. He's had a phenomenal season with Kyle Pitts. They've been a phenomenal duo. But Kyle Trask has been another late riser in terms of where he was last year to this point in the NFL draft. Trask is a guy who could very well go higher. It kind of depends on how the draft board falls. The quarterbacks are a little deeper this year, but I think the Saints would like to get that fifth-year option for drafting Kyle Trask in the first round.
Yeah, Trask definitely been flying up boards. And moving into the last pick here in the first round, the 9-0 Pittsburgh Steelers. It could be another quarterback destination here. Obviously, their roster is really complete, honestly. That's why they're 9-0. Defensively, they've got a lot of playmakers, a lot of really great weapons on that side of the field. And offensively, they're rather complete as well. Do you have them going QB long-term to replace Roethlisberger at some point?
Yep, I do. I actually have them going Mac Jones from the University of Alabama. And Mac Jones is a quarterback as well that people were not expecting to play this well. He's got a pretty good size frame, 6'2", 214. But he has been phenomenal this year, 16-2 touchdown to interception ratio. And he's already got in 6 games, 2,200 yards. So Mac Jones has done a great job with Alabama. Obviously, they have some weapons on that team that kind of help him, but that can't take away from how good he's been so far this year. And for the Steelers getting that 5th-year option again, and we believe that that long term that he would be the best fit for them at the quarterback position.
Yep. At this point, we just want to remind everyone to like and subscribe. And Austin, real quick, is there a team here that you love their draft selections at this point, based on where you mocked each player to?
Yeah, so just looking at it holistically, obviously Kyle Trask at 31 is a big win for me. If you're able to get him that late in the draft, they very well might have to trade up for him depending on what they're hearing. Another team, the New York Jets, did really well getting Shaun Wade that late in the draft. He's another guy that very well could be taken a little higher. His value is not as high considering he's a slot corner primary, so that might cause the tumble a little bit. But I think the Jets are a winner with that. Obviously, they get Trevor Lawrence, so phenomenal job for by the Jets organization if they can do that. But we're not going to count on that.
All right. Well, thank you guys for watching. And just a reminder that this is going to be a weekly thing. So next Monday, we'll catch you with the Week 11 mock draft. And we're excited to keep this series going for you guys. Make sure to smash that like button. Let us know in the comments below who your favorite team is, what you thought about our picks. We really love you guys' comments and feedback. And we're going to continue to try and improve our mocks here for you guys.